What's going on, friends and fam? Thank you guys so much for watching Every Day's a Saturday with your host, me, myself, and I, Brian Roof. Hey guys, another great day, another great episode. Episode 22, Finding a Diamond in the Rough. Hey guys, if you guys been following along with my storyline, been able to watch it, you guys would understand that I went through a kind of a nasty divorce, had to kind of deal with losing my two little ones and not being there for their every waking moment, so got into the dating game and eventually stumbled upon that diamond in the rough. That's my wife. So that's kind of what today's episode's about. But before we get into today's episode, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit, since we're in the month of May, Mental Health Awareness Month. And I just want to make sure everybody out there that you're doing okay. If you are doing okay, make sure you're checking on others out there to make sure they're doing okay. Especially our veterans and people out there that have, been through some really traumatic experiences. Make sure you're reaching out to those people and, not just because it's Mental Health Awareness Month, but you should be checking on these people in general. And also, there's kind of a fairly new number out there that people can call. It's the Lifeline Crisis number, and it's 988. And it's a pretty easy number to call, and it puts you in touch with someone. And to my understanding, it is discreet as long as you want to be discreet, and someone that is, equipped or, able to help you or at least put you in the right direction. There's those resources out there, and there's other numbers out there to call as well. But, just don't feel like you're alone, and don't feel afraid that you can't reach out to, someone like myself or your friends, coworkers, people out there that are going through something, the same, or, if someone that maybe you just kind of need them to listen, go to those kind of people and talk to them, get things off your chest. I assure you, talking things out, it does help, so don't get stuck in your head. Don't allow the mindset to be the best you know what I mean? So try to work through things and try to solve these things relatively quick. We're not always guaranteed tomorrow. So you don't want to have some mindset in your life that prevents you from, having relationships, furthering yourself in a career, doing something you really want to do, all these things. So having a clear mind, a healthy mindset, definitely helps us get things accomplished. But without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get in today's episode 22. Arr. All right, friends and fam, let's go ahead and get into today's episode 22, Finding a Diamond in the Rough. All right, so at this point in time in my life, right before I meet my wife, I had decided to get on the whole dating app thing, and tried it, a couple dates on the dating app. It didn't always go so well. Had some pretty interesting encounters. So if you haven't been able to watch the last episode, go listen to some of the funny encounters that I had while I was trying this whole dating app. And like I said, I got tired of the whole, game that you had to play. So I kind of just got to a level of like, screw it, man. I'm just going to throw it out there and see what people think. I'm not going to, I just was very upfront about my life and things I liked and all that stuff. So when I finally came across my wife, we were very blunt, talking about things that we liked sexually, things of that nature, things that we, like to do and enjoyed. We've, getting that to those levels of being able to ask questions and almost like an interview, just kind of asking a lot of questions that sometimes we don't ask while we're in a relationship, or we're kind of too afraid to ask. I just got to the level like I don't want to be a fake person. I want to be upfront. I want to be honest about myself. One of the biggest things that I always thought that was kind of against me is, I do like to smoke weed, and a lot of people don't really, necessarily agree with it or anything of that. So I always kind of struggled with that. So luckily, once I met my wife, it was boom. I didn't tell her like right off, like the very first date or nothing like that, because I didn't want to scare her off. But within about the first week of kind of dating, I just was telling her like, hey, listen. And the good thing is she has a best friend that is a avid weed smoker herself. So, and her husband as well. So it kind of helped the situation, and it wasn't so bad. And it wasn't like a total like omen or something like, I can't date you because you smoke or anything. But she wasn't, when I first, introduced it to her and talked to her about it, she didn't like it. She didn't think it was, something for her. So she's always been more of the drinking type. But I wouldn't say that I've got her to change her views, change her mind on it, and kind of see a different, aspect of it other than just like the things that everybody has kind of portrayed it to be in the past. As well as like, hey, I'm still successful. I can still manage my life, be a dad, be, have a profession, all those things, and still be okay. I'm not just sitting there at home, wasting my life away. But when I met my wife, she had three young boys, and all her boys are very close in age. They're like just like it's almost like a year, year and some change. But they all were, I think when I first met them, they were like 3, 4, or 5. And her middle son is an autistic little dude, and he's nonverbal. He's what you would consider high on the low on the spectrum in terms of he's nonverbal. There's a lot of things that he has to be assisted with, but he's still able to do a lot of things. I mean, he just needs assistance, like when he uses the restroom. He's not good at like if you were to give him a bowl of cereal with some milk and stuff. Like he's just his coordination and stuff like that isn't as good. But when I first met my wife, I wasn't clear or didn't really understand autism. I had no clue kind of what it was. I had, heard the word and stuff like that, but never really had anybody in my family or anybody that I've ever kind of, come across have autism. So I didn't know how to like generally like, what it was or anything. So, um, I've learned a lot getting to, have a stepson with autism. And, I think we've been really good for each other. But when I first met my wife, we kind of met up at a pool and stuff like that. She had her 3 boys. They were all swimming, brought some Gatorade. We had a really good interaction. It was, cool. The autistic dude, one thing about him is he's a really good swimmer. He is like a little fish, and he just loves to swim. And it's just crazy because he's never really had lessons or nothing. He just kind of knows how to swim. And we just do got to kind of monitor him a little bit because he does typically kind of like inhale or drink the water. So we got to kind of watch that and not allow too much, or otherwise he kind of gets sick. So, but anyhow, we're hanging out at the pool. I had said kind of a little bit about this story before. I had went to my buddies in Long Beach, got trashed, um, came home, and we hung out, and that was our first like hanging out by ourselves and stuff like that. And we just really hit it off, and, she just was very, I've never had a lady or a woman in my life who was just, she was very catering to me. Like she just, man, always wanted to like make me, lunch, make me dinner, bring me something. She just always was, wanting to do those kind of things. I worked really early in the morning while I was working before I went out on disability. Um, I was, getting up every morning. She was getting up, making my lunches for me and my coffee, and always leaving little notes for me, and just something I had never really had experienced with anybody before. So she definitely, made me feel special and stuff like that. And like I said, being able to be myself and be 100% with her too made things so much easier, because in the past I was always used to having to like kind of like hide around, or go out, cover my smoke up or something. And um with her I could just be myself, and she was very accepting of me. We hit it off really quick. She had been going through her divorce. She was pretty early into her divorce. And I had already, at this point in time, I think I want to say, man, I was about 5 years already away from my ex at the time. So we just, hit it off, and she got into a position where she needed to get out of her place. I kind of was, struggling with my bills and stuff like that. So once again, I moved things very fast. She moved in, and of course, the great thing about it is it all ended up working out really good for us. But the thing about it is that her family really kind of wasn't really over her past relationship, and so they weren't exactly excited about me coming into her life. So they were very reluctant on meeting me. We didn't really start off the relationship on a good, on a good foot to me, in the way that it kind of started, because they weren't ready to meet me, and that's fine. That's okay. They're entitled to that. It just wasn't great for a relationship to kind of start off that way, and but we just went ahead and kept going forward. And unfortunately, kind of where the families lied with everything, we kind of did a little marriage on our own. And so I'll go back up before I get into the marriage. I'll talk about how we got the whole engagement and stuff. So we had went up to Big Bear Lake area. Her and I got ourselves a little cabin. It was super cool. Had like a little jacuzzi in it. It was kind of like a studio cabin type thing, only like one, like an open room and stuff like that. The jacuzzi was there. It was super cool. Fire, um, cool atmosphere, cool, scenery. Um, so we go up to Big Bear, and I'm nervous as hell, because I know I'm going to propose to her, and I'm just, I'm a nervous wreck knowing that I'm going to be having to propose to her during this time. So I'm trying to find that moment in that time. I didn't really have a idea of when or where it was going to be. I just knew I was going to do it. So we're just chilling, and I think I just blurted it out, and had the ring, and of course she said yes, I will marry you, and we got engaged in Big Bear. And uh, at this point in time, we didn't really know exactly when we'd do it. We just knew we were going to get married relatively quick after our engagement. So uh, we go ahead and we end up getting, married in August of 2015. And we do this kind of a small wedding because, for one, her parents weren't really, like I said, exactly on board with us getting married and kind of moving fast. It was kind of, I think, a little bit too fast for them. Um, but it was my dad, my stepmom, and they were the only two that had showed up, and it was myself and my wife. And we kind of did this small ceremony, and, we got married, and boom, here we are, we're married, and uh, we are we've been living together this whole time. So nothing changed there, except now we're trying to get ourselves into a bigger home. and we want to go ahead and purchase a home. So that's what we do. We end up getting ourselves into a very nice big home. It was like a sheesh, man, like a 5 bedroom, like around a little over, it was around 3,000 square feet. Very big home for the family. It was a nice place for us all, and that's kind of where we first started. Now, there are challenges, of course, that come with, you know, bringing two families together. Here I am. I have two kids from my previous marriage. She has three boys from her previous marriage. And now we're trying to bring our lives together. And we both have our own schedules with our kids. So my schedule was I had my kids every first, third, and if there was a fifth weekend of the month. And then her schedule is and it had changed. I mean, it was for a while there. We had the kids pretty much primarily all the time, and then eventually it changed to we had them almost every single weekend and something like that. And then now and it's been this way for several years now, is that it's basically 50-50. We do our transfers on Fridays. So, it works out now. We're all adapted to it, but adapting to these kind of things all at first, wow, it is really a challenge, especially when they're all very little. And, here they are used to different rules, different ways of living from, house to house. So, I got to say that our marriage right off rip was very challenging because, we're, for one, she's still kind of dealing a lot. Her marriage is still very new. I still got a lot of stuff going on with my ex. And then I got older kids, and then she's got younger kids. And, you're just trying to deal with whenever my kids are coming over, her kids are coming over. We have all of our kids all at one time. It could either go, it's really fun, or it's really crazy and everybody's fighting, and you're just basically being a referee. So you got to say that, those kind of things were very challenging for a new marriage, because we're both not really used to this life of, getting married and having to share a life, share parenting with, sets of kids. But, it seems like throughout the years, we've had our struggles. We definitely have had our struggles. It is hard. It is a lot of work, but, communication, being transparent, all those kind of things, and just working through things is just very important. And, always got to keep your kids in mind as well when you're making your decisions or, putting things in place to protect your children. And not everybody always agrees, when it comes to different ways of, how to raise your kids and whether they should have phones, whether they shouldn't have phones, at what age should they have phones. There's a lot of things that you're faced with that parents weren't necessarily faced with. And it's just in a different kind of way. I know parents we're always faced with things with our children. It's just, at what point in time, what are the things going on? And just so happens that in our world, it's technology, because being able to access any web or anything like that, there's access to everybody. Everybody has access to you. So, unfortunately, we live in a scary day where and there's a lot of smart people out there that know how to hack things and know how to get into things and know how to manipulate things and make it not look right. So, it's hard this day. It's hard this day and age to co-parent, to bring parents together and be on the same page. And co-parenting is been one of the biggest struggles I think I've ever had, is trying to live, and agree with my ex-wife, with my two older kids, and how, things as they're getting faced, how it should be addressed or how we should, go forward with it. Her and I just couldn't see eye to eye on how to raise those two kids. So everything tend to be a fight or, and then unfortunately, a lot of things that I have said or thought may happen have come true in so many manners. And it's been, unfortunate to see some of the things outplay when you knew it was going to go down that way. Um, it's like, predicting a car crash and then just watching it happen. Um, that's kind of exactly what I was faced with my kids and some of the things that I seen or experienced. But divorce is rough. It is rough. And then trying to remarry and then having kids, having exes to deal with. And then, you're dealing with two sets of exes. You got your ex, they got their ex, and then those exes tend to get married. And then now they have a partner, and then there's someone else involved to this situation. So, man, it turns into a big spider web. And it's really hard when a lot of times you just don't agree as people, as parents. And that's probably why more than most likely the marriage is going to work out. But then now here you are trying to go raise and do things with your kids, but you're on two different play fields. And every time the kids go from one house to the next house, there's change of rules, change of houses. It's got to be rough. And I understand that, but at least I got to say, and if there's any good of it, at least I could say that the world kind of is that way anyways. You do go through a lot of changes in life. You don't always have the same bosses. You don't always have the same coworkers. You don't always stay in the same job. You don't always stay in the same schools. So, at least there's ways that you can probably have a little bit easier time mitigating in life, changes. Because I know as a kid from divorce and a product of divorce, and then I divorced, I can't say that it did help me navigate through a lot of things that I was faced with as an adult, with all the different changes and things that I had to go through. And then with, going through divorce, I'm just like, good Lord, another thing in my life that I have to, go through an obstacle. But, I would advise you guys out there is, try to do your best to make your relationships work. Don't go into getting in relationships unless they're going to work, and things of that nature. Because it's a rough world out there, and dating and stuff like that is really hard. But don't go, trying to rush into things or have society, have a whole influence on you in making a decision. Do and make the right decisions for yourself, so that way you don't got to suffer later. Because don't forget that you're the ones that's got to live with the decisions that you end up making. No matter what people are saying, you're the one that's got to live with it, or you're the one that's got to deal with the outcome of it. They're just the peanut gallery telling you, do this, don't do this, yay, 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 no, no, no. So follow your heart desires and what you think is going to do. And you got to live with each and every, decision you make. But marriage, is hard, but I'm glad that I was able to find my wife now, and we've been able to work through a lot of things. And a lot of it has to do with just, trying to be, communicate. We've had some major blow ups and major, things, and trying to work through it all, because mentally we've always had a bad mental state of mind. We've dealt with a lot of things, and we haven't dealt with is more or less the thing. So, and now that we've been able to kind of deal with things, makes our relationship so much nicer and easier to deal with and react to things when you're able to kind of just, have a clear mind, and you're not so on the defense mode all the time, or feel like, you got to defend yourself. It's just a lot easier to live. But my wife and I, when we were dating and stuff like that, I think we had kind of briefly talked about having a kid, and I think we both kind of wanted to have that life where we raise a kid together and we're not separated, and we don't have to share a kid's, things of that. And also in my head too, I wanted to kind of have a chance at being a better dad, have an opportunity to have that chance to be a better dad, a second time around. And a lot of that has definitely happened. I'm definitely making great strides, and I've already given him a better life for sure at this age, up to his age, than I was able to for my other kids, just for the sheer fact that I was put out on disability 100% through the VA back in 2018, and then once and back then my son was like a little dude, so he'll never even remember me working whatsoever. My older two, that's all they probably remember is just dad always having to work. Dad had all these other extra activities going on and things of that nature. So I was always kind of trying to keep myself, I think, busy to stay out of my mind the best I could. But us having, another guy, it has been very rewarding. It is crazy to restart, after my daughter is already in college and my son, he's 17. Next year he'll be 18. My gosh. And so I'll have two adult kids, and then we have her three. And then, there's that, I think there's about a 5-year gap or so between our littlest one and her youngest one. So starting all over wasn't a bad choice, in my opinion. Yeah. You give up a lot of your freedoms, obviously, and stuff like that. But as they get older, you start finding yourself back into having a lot of freedom and extra time because they're gone at school or in some kind of activity. And my gosh, it goes by so fast. And I've enjoyed being a dad this go around. I've enjoyed being able to watch him grow. I love being that I can be here for every waking moment, and he can cry and say, Dad, I need this, or Mom, and I can be like, what's going on? Or I just love that, I have that opportunity to be better and also show my older kids too, like, hey, and I've taught to them and I've expressed to them that I know I wasn't the best of father to them, and I know I could have done a lot better. And that I just hope that you guys can see that you guys have made me want to be a better dad and to be a better dad. So I'm giving, that opportunity to your little brother. And I'm also trying to do that now. And unfortunately, our relationships with my older ones is transitioning kind of from that parenting into like a friendship parenting type of thing. Like I'm already, me and my daughter, we've kind of transitioned from me kind of being her dad, which I'm always going to be her dad, but more into like kind of being a friend and us, being able to talk about things, and just have fun, joke around and not feel so like, oh my gosh, I don't want to tell my dad this. Like, it's more like, oh, I'm going to tell my dad, and see what he says. So I'm glad that, I've had this second opportunity. I hate that I had to experience so much that I had experienced, and I couldn't be a very good dad to my kids, my older two. And I will always, have that burden a little bit in my heart that I wasn't the best dad I could have been to them. And, I forever will be sorry that I wasn't, but all I can do is, move forward and do what I can do today. And that's all I'm going to do, and try to make tomorrow better than the next day, always trying to move forward. I'm always going to keep doing that. I love my kids. I love to see them grow. I'm hoping the best for each and every one of them, and that they all grow up and not have to go through half the things that myself or even their mom has gone through, and try to give them tools and try to educate them in ways that I didn't get as a kid. We just sometimes pass our kids off as kids, which at some ages I agree. There's a certain age in life that there's things they don't really need to know, because at a point in time they'll be old enough to know things, and then it's just like they don't get a break from all of it. So I do think that there's a certain age and time where kids don't need to know things, don't need to be into parent things, and just be a kid. And then at some point in time, though, you need to start talking to your kids when they get older and you see that they are starting to mature, and, give them tools and give them, instruments that can help guide them. I mean, it's hard because we're not living in the day that they lived in, and they're not living in the day that we lived in. It's a completely different day and age. But all we can do is give them the tools and the knowledge and the experiences that we had to learn from. So try to give those little things, those little nuggets to your kids so they can maybe not go down that same path, or maybe it doesn't have to be so rough as something you had experienced. As generations go on, there's some things in generations that are probably good habits that we want to do, but there's probably some generational bad habits that, as it's our job in our generation to kind of try to break cycles, not keep cycles going, especially the bad habit ones. The good habits ones, obviously you keep those kind of going and flourish. But the bad habit one, you want to stop that at your generation, so that way the next generation, it doesn't keep on going, and it's not a circling. Because my gosh, I'm already on my dad's side, like a third generation divorce, and my mom's side, luckily my grandparents never got a divorce, but my mom and dad did. So on that side, I'm a second generation divorce. So I'm hoping my kids don't have to go through any of that. So I'm trying to, give them all that I can and try to steer them in directions that I can. But obviously, it's their life, their minds, and they're going to make the decisions that they want to make. But anyways, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have the chance, please go back, like, subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Doesn't cost a thing. But anyways, I hope you guys are having a great day, great week, great month, whatever it may be. Don't let it kick your ass, kick its ass. Until next time. Boom.